everyone. It's me, Madam Pamita. I'm going to put my sparkles on. Hello. We're doing a another fabulous episode of Meet My Familiar, and this is a very special one because there she is. The Love Witch is joining me. I'm so excited. This is one of the people I'm interviewing that I actually know the familiar story, but maybe I'll find out some new things that I didn't know before. What is Meet My Familiar? Why are we doing this? I want to give a little announcement, a little plug for my new book. My book, The Witch's Guide to Animal Familiars, is coming out in January. It is if I say so myself, a very exciting, very fun book, and a very deeply magical and spiritual book about working with your animals and bringing them in as partners in your magic. So if you love animals and you have pets or wild animals that you connect to and you want to deepen that connection and start making magic with them, this book is filled with rituals and spells and all kinds of things that will help you to deepen that connection. So I'm very, very excited to announce that launch. And if you pre-order it and go to animalfamiliars.com, you can get some extra bonuses. This is a $17 book, and you'll get a $40 class for free. My full moon workshop in January is going to be an introduction to animal familiars, and you will get that class for free if you pre-order and you sign up at animalfamiliars.com. So there you go. That's my plug. And now I'm going to bring the Love Witch in. And maybe Femi, we can talk about Femi too. I don't know if Femi's your familiar, but I do know Simone is your familiar. And all of the, there you are. Hello.
Hello.
Oh my gosh. How's your voice doing?
Better.
Good.
Yeah, I felt like I swallowed a whole tortilla chip, is what I've been telling people.
Oh,
But now I
that's
feel
okay. That's so good. That's so good. Well, this is the Love Witch. I'll tell everybody a little bit about you. So the Love Witch is, I don't know if you ever sent me a bio, but I think I can do your bio just off the top of my
yeah, you can
head.
ring it.
And then, because I know you so well. And then if there's anything that you want to add into that bio, just let me know. So the Love Witch is part of the Parlor of Wonders. She works as a reader and a spellcaster here at the Parlor of Wonders. She also handles my social media, and also it's kind of like I always call you my right arm. I don't know what I would do without you. You do so much behind the scenes at the Parlor of Wonders, along with the wonderful services that you offer clients, which are amazing. You get so much good feedback. And I have lots and lots of people that tell me how their experience was so great with you. So I don't ever get to tell you enough about how people love you and adore you, but I think you know. So the Love Witch is also an author. You have authored some books, and what else do they need to know about you? You're a charm caster, which is, I think, you are the only one that's doing charm casting for clients. I can charm cast, but I don't do it for clients. So you do that work. Is there anything I missed
Um,
that you do?
I do one-on-one magical education. So
Oh,
if you just want to like talk about manifestation or chat about your spells or learn how to do them,
yeah.
that's one of my favorite things too. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And also too, when you go to parlorwonders.com and you see that chat button in the lower corner, the lower right corner, where you can ask questions. Like if you have a question about your shipment or about a product or want a recommendation, both the Love Witch and I are the ones that cover and answer those questions. But I say usually 99% of the time you're going to get the Love Witch, and there's that 1% of the time when I'm awake on the West Coast and you're not awake, that you're sleeping, and I get in there and I answer a question. But most of the time it's you answering those questions. So if you have a question about what products to use for your situation or recommendations, you can always reach out to us at parlorofwonders.com in our chat. It's real. It's not a robot answering you. So you will get a real person. And like I said, 99% of the time it's Love Witch. So we're going to talk about familiars because that's what the topic of this interview is. So I know, well, I'm going to ask you because I'm guessing that Simone is your familiar, but you also have, and Simone is a beautiful, fluffy orange cat. She
Right here.
matches you. Oh
Excited
my
to
gosh.
join.
Look
Here
at
she
her.
is.
Oh my gosh, that cutie. Oh
I
my
can't hold her
gosh.
up too high because she might pee out. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
she, let's see if you move back. Yeah, there you go. Oh, there she is. Oh my gosh, you guys are matchy matchy. I
It's
love
funny
it.
you say that because when well, long story short, when I was getting Simone, my heart had been really broken because like I'd lost a cat, and so I was like taking time to heal, and that had been like really difficult for me. Like I moved cities, I changed everything, and when I'm suddenly one day I was like, I think I'm ready. I just feel suddenly ready, and so I went on Craigslist, and like the first thing I clicked was these four little kittens. One of them was orange, and the other three were like gray. And I emailed and I was like, I'd really love the orange one, but any of them would be great. I work at home, so I'm there all day, blah, blah, blah. And so he emailed me back and was like, that's the only one that's taken, but they're all super sweet, so you can come tomorrow. And then like an hour later, he emailed back and was like, so I Googled you and you're getting the orange one because you're twins. So
This is like your biological
Mhm.
child, right? Because you have the same.
And he had been rescuing cats from like a feral colony behind his house for years. And he was like, this is the sweetest, best cat that I've ever met from all of those. So I really want her to go to a home where she can just be in somebody's lap all day.
Oh,
So she's been in my lap for like 8 years.
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Now I know you also have another cat, Femi, and Femi or Fami. Sorry, I
Family,
always want
yeah.
to call her Femi. It's Fami, right? So
Hmm.
Fami, do you consider Fami to be your familiar too?
Yeah, I see her as more like a magical co-conspirator, right? Like she's an inherited familiar, but she came into my life a super magical way as well. So she definitely, yeah, she's got a lot of magic about her. Oddly enough, I live in New York City, but I grew up in North Carolina, and right after I moved here. I was friends with my eighth grade history teacher on Facebook, and she was like, "Oh, you moved to New York? Where do you live?" And I was 2 blocks away from her,
Oh
and
my
she needed a
gosh.
cat sitter. So I started cat sitting for her. And then she got married to a guy with really bad allergies, and she had to find homes for her cat. So I was like, of course, that cat's going to come live with us now. So it was
Yes.
my elderly roommate's cat because they bonded right away, and she had a cat who had passed away. But she's definitely my cat too, and I definitely make a lot of magic with her too.
Oh my gosh, it's so sweet. I love, this is the fun thing about doing these interviews is that I get to talk with people about how their cats come, or their animals, I shouldn't say cats, but how their familiars come into their lives. And it's always like a magical story. I have not heard one yet that was kind of mundane. It always seems like there's some kind of twist of fate that brings these beautiful animals into our lives that want to work with us. It's like the chance meeting of a lover, like you or just happen to be in the same place at the same time, or there's some kind of, sort of synchronicity around the meeting. So I absolutely love that. And these two adorable kitty cats of yours, these familiars of yours, are absolutely right in there with their magical stories of how they came into your
They
life for sure.
represent such different parts of my work too, right? Because Simone is so loving and so just like super sweet and affectionate, and Fami's like pretty mean, but in a playful way, right? Where she's
Yeah,
always like starting fights and then running away and just watching the fights.
she's a
So they
Scorpio.
both are like have very different energies to work with. But cats in general have were kind of like the first evidence of magic to me because when I was in maybe like third or fourth grade, I was obsessed with getting a long-haired white cat, and we had like several cats, and I loved all of them. But I would just like not shut up about wanting a long-haired white cat, and my mom was like, "Absolutely not. We're at cat capacity." And then one day, her best friend called on this like rainy day. And she was like, "Hey, Buchanan's long white-haired cat is on my porch, so you need to come pick it up." So that cat just like manifested out of thin air for me.
Oh my
And ever
gosh.
since then, I've been like, okay, yeah, cats are magical.
Yeah.
I am magical. Cats like
Yeah.
me.
Yes. I love that. I mean, that manifestation process is so amazing. I just love it so much. I love it. I love the stories. What was that little white cat's name?
Her name was
Oh,
Princess.
so cute,
Yeah, and
right?
she had many kittens. So I had these other two cats, Gigi and Percy, and they were both like really, really crazy, but really, really fun and
Yeah.
super magical in their own
Yeah.
ways too. So.
Yeah. Aw, oh, I love that. So can you talk about some of the magic that has happened that you've done? Like, have you brought how you bring them into your magic, or things that you have done with them?
Yeah, well,
Address that.
I
Mm-hmm.
really let them lead the way, right? So, um, when I'm doing a reading or when I'm like working at my altar, I feel like 90% of the time Simone is gonna like want in the room. So she definitely like wants in on it, but I don't like force her to come in here, right?
Yeah.
So it's like inviting her in. And um, but I really find that they invite me to do things that I wouldn't normally. And this is like a kind of silly example, but they wake me up really early in the morning to feed them. And then I fall back to sleep and I have the most like lucid dreams. And I never remember my dreams otherwise, only when I've like woken up and fallen back asleep. So like they help me manifest in my dreams and like travel astrally. And it's really, really cool. And yeah, I feel like I also just get a lot of wisdom from my cats, like watching them. There's so much to learn from them, and like the way they behave, the way they respond to things. Yeah, so like to me, they're very much ingrained in my practice because they're ingrained in like every part of my life, right?
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And I think that's an important point that you bring up, which is that the when you work with an animal familiar, cat or any other animal, it isn't training them or forcing them to do magic with you. They're either going to want to do it on their own and in, invite themselves to the party, or they're not, and I've had, and I don't know about you, but I've had cats and animals that have taught me things, or I've had very close loving relationships, but they weren't necessarily a familiar. They weren't necessarily wanting to get involved in my magical practice. Glinda being like absolutely wanting to get involved. Anytime I'm doing a candle spell, she's hanging around, she inspects my work. And it's
Your
like
manager.
I mean, it's like, yeah, my manager, right? And I always feel like she's going, I guess it'll do. And then when I'm doing readings, oftentimes she'll come around if she's inside, when in the house when I'm doing a reading, she'll come around, and so on. So seeing that interest coming from the animal, and it's not our imagination. You could say, well, you're just sitting down and that's why they're coming around. No, there's a
Mm-mm.
definite interest in what you're doing, and they're sensing the energy, and possibly even adding, I believe, adding their own energy to our spell work, and the things that we do, the divination that we do, any kind of magical spiritual thing that we're doing. They're lending their energy, which is why these collaborations are so powerful.
Absolutely. I feel like Simone will always want to be in here. I'm doing readings too, and then she'll also lose interest and like want to leave the room in the middle of them and interrupt them,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right? But I've noticed like trends with that too, where I'm like, oh, she doesn't have anything to contribute here, so she wants to go do cat stuff right now.
yeah.
And
Maybe
then other times
it's
she seems really, really engaged, and like I can even like connect dots on like, and I'm not gonna out any clients. So I'm not gonna name topics that she leaves the room
yeah,
for. She just topics she's not interested in,
yeah.
just like humans are.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe that's the thing that you're noticing, is that it's not a rejection. It's just, oh, I don't have anything to add to this. Like, I think about certain spell work that I'm not interested in doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not interested. I'm not interested in conjuring demons. Not my thing, not interested in it. Don't want to, I mean, it's not that I'm afraid of it, I'm just not interested, right? So when people ask about that, I'm like, I'm not your person,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So
Somebody's really passionate about that.
yeah, yeah. And I think that with our familiars, they're going to have areas that um, they're more adept at, and that's how they want to contribute. Um, and so Fami is contributing something different than Simone.
Yeah, and Fami, for a long time, I wasn't dismissive of her. Her name is short for familiar, by the way, because Mindy manifested that where she was like, I want a black cat named Fami. And I was like, well, I know a black cat that needs a home, so let's rename her. But, I didn't really think of her as that interested in magic. She was very interested in literature and in language. Like, she was always laying on like Yiddish to English dictionaries or on like Russian to English dictionaries, always on these dictionaries. But then when Mindy died, me and Fami mourned together, and she would like wipe my tears away with her face, and like hug me when I was crying, and like I could feel her pain too. And so we have a very, very magical and special bond because of that. you know,
Yeah.
her and Simone don't. They get along better now, but you know, it's like things are always interesting over
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
breaking up some sort of tension.
Yeah.
But it's fun to have like different dynamics with each animal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really like, I mean, it's almost like in some ways siblings. You can't guarantee that if you have kids that your kids are going to get along. You're lucky if they do, but that's not always the case. And especially when you bring full grown cats into the scene, I think that also, they've got their personalities, they've got their, they've already got their personalities in place. And so they may, clash or they may get along. It depends, but
It's so funny
yeah.
you say that though, because Mindy always said, she was like, their fights are evidence of the fact that they're sisters. They fight just like sisters. They never hurt each other, but they're constantly spatting back and forth.
Yes,
Their way of
absolutely.
showing love.
Absolutely. Oh, look at this. We have Airmids here saying, I never had an animal that I would consider familiar until my cat Norman that came into my life last year.
Aw.
He wasn't even supposed to be for me, but I ended up with him. That is absolutely a sign that they just show up. It's like so interesting. Like sometimes we call them in, sometimes we are inviting them in, but um some they come when they come, and sometimes you may not be intending to have a familiar and you get one.
Yeah,
And I think that's an interesting thing that shows up in magic, as
absolutely.
well. Yeah, like, I mean, I think, Fammy wasn't your calling her in.
Hmm.
That was Mindy calling her, your roommate
Yeah.
Mindy calling her in. Yeah.
But now I'm so glad she did, because you know she's this tangible piece I have of Mindy, and
Yeah.
this beautiful way to connect with her memory and with her spirit.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And maybe even carrying a little bit of that spirit along with her. It's like having that person that remembers someone. Yeah, that is such a good, important thing. So, do you have any like suggestions on working with familiars, inviting familiars, anything that you've um, could suggest to people about that?
Yeah, I think really the best place to start is by really like honoring the animals in your life, or honoring the animals that you want to work with. So, you know, if you have a cat, this could be, you know, I'm sorry if you can hear her playing in the
It's all
background.
right.
Or if she's pushing around the floor. But, you know, if you have a cat, like giving them toys, giving them lots of treats, really, you know, making little offerings to them and making that bond all the more special. That's not even really a magical tip, but like a good pet owner tip, right? Like you want
Yeah.
your feel special. But if you don't have a pet or you can't have a pet, you can volunteer or make donations to organizations that help those animals. If you want to work with cats, you can donate to a place called Alley Cat Allies. They're really special to my roommate who passed away. So like I make donations to them in her memory. And I've also found, like, you know, just by really having respect for an animal and like giving a lot to that animal will come and take care of you too. So like there was a time when I was unemployed, and then overnight I was overwhelmingly employed as a cat sitter, where it was like, oh, I don't just have one person who wants me to feed their cat. I have like 23, and I have to like put pens on a map and go figure out how I'm going to get to all these cats in one day. So like the animal support network will come and support you if you've been somebody who provides support to them. So, you know, just do little things for animals. And I think that's like a really wonderful place to start with making magic with them. And then they're going to, in my experience, show you how they want to make magic with you.
Yeah.
And if you're not picking up how that is, they may not be interested in magic, or you might just need to start thinking more like them, right? And
Yeah.
like observing them and copying some of their behaviors, right? Simone encourages me to take it easy. I live a
Yeah.
very leisurely life because she's going to be upset if I'm not home all day to take care of her and to pet her. And, you know, as your followers might know, she had a really like tragic accident about 2 years ago. And so now she's like a special needs cat, and I have to like help her use the litter box twice a day, and she has to have like stairs to get up and down from the bed. And she's taught me so much about like my strength and my patience and just what I'm capable of. So really our animals can teach us so much about ourselves that can enrich our magic as well. So yeah, just like be open to learning and be open to listening, and talk to your animals too. I talk to my spirit guides all the time, but if I'm like not embarrassed about that now. But if I was embarrassed, I would tell people, oh, I was talking to the cats. So it's a really easy way to explain who you were talking to if you're communing with your guides or with yourself out loud. But talk things out with your cats. I will say things to Simone as I'm like working something out in my head, and then I'm like, actually, you know what? That sounds terrible out loud. Thank you, Simone. That's really good insight. But I'm not going to say that again. So chat
Yeah.
with them.
Oh my gosh. You brought up a really good point, which is sometimes people feel an attraction or want to work with an animal that can't be a pet, or isn't advisable
Or
to be a pet, a
they're allergic
tiger.
to.
Yeah, or allergic to, exactly. So, bears, tigers, elephants, these big animals that really, and even animals that sometimes people do domesticate, like wolves and, crows and things like that. We want to let wild animals that are not domesticated be wild,
Mhm.
and so a way that you can connect with them if you want to connect with this wild animal in a very respectful way is to, or, something that you can't really get in touch with, like a whale. Like, how are you going to swim with a whale? I mean, maybe there's a swim with a whale thing, but these are animals that are inaccessible. Oops, I just kicked the stand. These are animals that are inaccessible, generally inaccessible, and they live in the wild, but you can observe them, certainly. But you can also make friends with them and honor them by making donations. So whether it is a pet or a wild animal rescue, or something that contributes to the environment where they live and preserves that environment, that wild environment where they live. These are great ways that you can honor these animals and deeply connect to. And that is another way of connecting. Absolutely can be another way of connecting with these animals, which is such a beautiful thing. But it doesn't have to be a wild animal. It could be, a pet rescue of some kind that you just show your commitment. And when you show that commitment, it's like making an offering to your ancestors, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting that you mentioned that because um, when I was like taking so much care of Simone, and after she had her accident, it put me into so much debt, and so I wasn't in a position to be like donating it to a lot of charities and stuff. But I did need healing and I did need peace, so I started walking along the ocean and picking up any litter that I saw, and that was like a really tiny way of making an offering to the ocean and to all the beautiful creatures swimming around in there.
Yeah.
And I would also come home and like meditate to like whale sounds. So there's all sorts of ways you can connect with all sorts of animals.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the best way to approach any sort of magic or really anything in life in general is with a fun, playful attitude. And I remember what I used to love doing was going to the library and getting books on animals, like picture books, and learning about them. And even like some animals that I was afraid of, I would go and get those books, and it would help me to be less afraid because I would learn cool things about them.
Yeah.
So, and like now we have so much more access to so much more information, right? So I don't have to go check out a book. I can look up a YouTube video or read a whole site about whales, right? Like there's so much you can do. So
Yeah.
take advantage of all the great information that's out there, especially your new book, which is so, so, so good. And like I've found so much amazing stuff in it already. I'm so excited that I got an advanced copy.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. But I'm
Yeah.
telling
Yeah.
everyone now, like you want to read this book because every single page of it is so good. And like I was like, oh, I'm so excited to read this book for the cat stuff in it. No, I loved every single page of it, and every single bit of it was so useful for my magic, including like I can incorporate so many of those spells that are for other animals. I can adapt that to be for my cats, or I
Exactly.
can use that to bring those other animals into my practice as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you brought up something that I really was very conscious of, which is that this book is a launching pad in many ways for you creating your own spells with your animal. Because if you go into, for example, I'll just give for instance. So there's a whole chapter about cats. There's a whole chapter about dogs. There's a whole chapter about horses. There's a chapter about rodents and rabbits. And then there's chapters about spiders, insects, fish, lizards, snakes. I mean, there's just so much. I mean, there really is so many other things. So, in thinking about this, like, I do suggest in the book that you look at, of course, your animal, that's your special animal. But when you look at the other chapters, I hope that that inspires people to say like, well, gosh, how can I adapt that to something for my animal. And I think about, like, for example, the rodents and rabbits, I have a whole section on working with different woods. So wood, they'd have to chew on woods to keep their teeth sharp and to keep their teeth from overgrowing, right? But you could do something different, which is like, instead of, obviously a cat isn't going to chew on wood, but you could, for example, give them 5 different catnip toys and see which one they go for. And let that be like a reading for you. So
Mhm.
if you have one that's a, I don't know, a pizza, one that's a mouse, one that's a this or that, you can, use this as a divination tool. I don't have that in the book, but that's the example of using, like something that's from another area and thinking creatively about it and saying, oh, I could adapt that and use that with my cat. So I hope this is my hope, that people look at these different things and let those be a springboard for them adapting something else. Because I could do a whole book just about cats. I could do a whole book just about dogs, but I wanted to kind of break it up into more than just cats and dogs, because I wanted people to start to get a bigger vision about what a familiar could be, you know? Um, I One of the examples that is near and dear to my heart are spiders. I have always, since I was a little girl, loved spiders. Maybe it was because Charlotte's Web was big when I was a kid. There was a cartoon about Charlotte's Web, and the book was really popular and big. And it's about, a spider and a pig that it befriends a spider, and the spider helps save the pig, right? And I always loved spiders. And so when I started thinking about how a spider can be a familiar to someone, I was like, they're really interesting because they're an insect, but because they generally stay in one place, they're kind of a domestic,
Mhm.
wild. They're not an insect; they're an arachnid, but they're a bug that is kind of domestic because they can live in your house, right? And they stay in one place, and you could watch them every day, like Charlotte's Web. The pig looking at Charlotte's Web. So I loved the process of writing about this, how it expanded my own vision and of what is possible with when working magically with animals. And I hope that people get that too, and they get that inspiration to create their own spells and adapt spells, and of course get all the goodness of the spells that I offer, the special spells for these animals that I offer.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I think just like thinking back to that cat princess that we were talking about earlier, I remember when she had kittens, like watching her give birth and like watching her take care of her newborn kittens and asking my mom, like, how does she know to do this? Like, how does she know what to do? It's just insane. And my mom was like, that's just instincts. They just know. And from that moment, I've always known, like, oh, they know so much more than us and they can teach us so much. And I'm getting a little emotional because now I'm just thinking about Charlotte's Web. And that makes me cry every time. But like, yeah, there's just an endless amount of like knowledge that they have. And we have instincts too, and they've been like quieted down by society and all the things that we're exposed to all day long. But animals are so much closer to the source, and so much more pure.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, so there's just like endless wisdom to take from them. And I think your book has so many wonderful ways of accessing that and like beginning that conversation with those animals.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm looking forward to everybody getting this book in their hands, and want to remind everybody that if you go to animalfamiliars.com and you pre-order a copy of The Witch's Guide to Animal Familiars, you'll get a bunch of bonuses. The first bonus that we're offering right now is a $40 full moon workshop. So full moon workshops normally cost $40, but we're wanting people to pre-order. So we're giving away the super juicy bonus of this class. You can get this class for free. It's normally $40, and it's the January January version, I guess the January class that I'm offering is going to be an introduction to animal familiars. So you will get more information and learn about them, as well as get the book. So for $17 for the book, you get a $40 class plus the book, plus a bunch of other bonuses that we're going to be offering as we get into the rest of January and into February. We got some other goodies that we're going to be offering and fun things. And if you do it now, if you pre-order now, you will get all the bonuses. If you pre-order later or order it after the book comes out, you will miss out on some of those bonuses. So I want to encourage everybody to jump on that and go over to animalfamiliars.com and get all those good juicy bonuses, because pre-orders are great. They're really, really helpful to authors. If you love an author and you want to encourage them and want to help them, then pre-order their books, because it really, really, really helps. So yeah, absolutely. When are you going to write your book? That's what I want to know.
Thinking about it every day. But I've decided like soon. I'm gonna have like I'm gonna be working on it every single day instead of just thinking about it. And it's as simple as like switching over to that, right? So my problem is picking a topic. I have way too many good ideas. So I
put together a proposal. Put together a proposal and then just pitch it. And then if they go, they pass on it, say, I've got some other ideas. And if you want me to do a proposal for any of those, that's what you need to do. That's how it's done.
I wanted to highlight something. I saw this comment about helping like feral cats with like things like trap and neuter and release, and that's such a great point. And in my neighborhood, there's all sorts of feral cats, and when I see them, I always like slow down and I don't approach them, but I let them know that like I'm approachable. You know what I mean? And I love having a connection with them, because I'm always thinking, God forbid, if one of my cats did get outside, I could come and talk to these cats and say, where's my cat? And I had this really magical experience. We had this cat, Monk, who was a boy cat who gave birth eventually, which was really surprising. So cats are full of surprises. But he went missing for like 2 or 3 months. And we were like sure that we were never going to see this cat again. And then one day I was letting the other cat out, and I was like, don't come back until you have Monk with you. And 15 minutes later, we heard 2 cats meowing at the door, and she had brought her back with her. So cats, like, don't be afraid to like ask them for things, make direct requests, and let them know what you're looking for, because they're so great at finding things. And the other thing I wanted to say is if your cat is ever in need or sick, work with your house spirit. I got this from your last book, Baba Yaga's Book of Magic. I go to my Domovic all the time whenever I'm worried about the cats, because they have a relationship with the house spirit, and the house spirit's happy to take care of them. And I have so many direct ancestors who like I knew who loved cats. So when I'm worried about my cats, I speak directly to them too. I say, Grandma, please come help Simone. And they listen too. So
absolutely. I mean, that is a beautiful thing to think about, and it's weird because I lost my wonderful little Ozma just a few weeks ago while I was out of the country, and it was super heartbreaking. But she used to love to go on my ancestor altar and eat whatever I offered the ancestors, basically. Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't drink the coffee, wouldn't drink the alcohol, the shot of vodka, but she would eat whatever I put out there.
Oh, that's so funny.
Unless it was a piece of fruit, then she wouldn't eat it. But if it was a piece of bread or anything like that. And it was really interesting this morning. I had a thought, I think about her. I got her ashes, and they made a little paw print with ink and paw print like in clay. And I put those up on the ancestor altar, because there's that 40 days where you honor your loved ones who have passed. And I had been earlier thinking like, oh my gosh, she's going to be going into the spirit realm and she's going to be on her own. But then I said no, because she was so deeply connected to the ancestors because she was always eating their food.
Hmm.
I'm sure she knows and saw them
Absolutely.
and knows them, and she's going to be, her little spirit is going to be well taken care of in the spirit realm until she's ready to come back, which I told you, we haven't even talked about this, but I just messaged you while I was gone that I had amazing dreams that told me she's going to come, her spirit's going to come back to me in a new little kitten body. So I'm just kind of really holding that vision and kind of can't wait for her to come back, but I know she's going to come back. You know, I'm really looking forward to her coming back. So one of the things you had said was that Simone had been come back to you like 8 times or whatever.
Yeah, because that long-haired white cat princess, she had a very similar temperament to Simone, where like she was always all over me, kind of like never met a stranger, but also never quite liked anybody except for me. And then my cat Nico, who was the one that I lost before I moved to Nashville and found Simone, he was like the exact same way, and he was a long-haired brown cat. So I've been working my way through the color chart with these long-haired cats. And my old roommate, when she met Simone, she was like, "Oh, this is like a bourgeoisie cat. This is very fancy. What pedigree is this?" And I was like, "Allie." So don't dismiss all long-haired cats as purebred or as some sort of like fancy cat, because
Yeah.
many of them are rescues and like born in dumpsters too, just like cute little Simone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm kind of like wanting a long-haired black cat. I want her to come back in a long-haired black cat body. So I
Mm.
want a fluffy black cat. I haven't had a fluffy cat since I was a little girl. I've always had short-haired cats, like since the cat that I had when I was probably 5 years old was Hobart, who turned into, we found out Hobart was a girl, so then she became Ho Ho. So, which is really funny because back then ho didn't mean what it meant today. She was, and she was a hoe. She got pregnant, and then she had a little tuxedo named Tom, who
Aw.
was my ever by my side companion. I mean, I'm going to tell one little funny story. It's like it's not magical. It's just a child harassing a cat. But you know those paper mache, like they have paper mache eggs for Easter that are kind of big. They're like,
Mhm.
size of a football, right? Maybe a little smaller than that, small football. I used to, when he was a kitten, put him inside the egg and say, okay, you're going to hatch out of the egg. Poor cat, so harassed.
Oh
But
my
he just
God.
loved me and slept with me. And, he was my constant companion. He was really a sweet little tuxedo boy. But yeah, so,
We
so
had a black cat named Butch who was like everybody's favorite cat. He was
yeah.
so so sweet, and I was really young, so I'm not responsible for this. This was my sister's fault. But one day my mom came out to the backyard, and the three of us were baptizing the cat. And thank God, like she found us when she did, and like he didn't get her. His head just got a little wet, right? But it's the dangers of organized religion.
Being like you were immersing them
I,
in
I
water.
wasn't doing anything. I was just praying.
You were singing the Jesus songs on the sidelines. See, with Catholic church, you only get a little drop of
Yeah,
water on
that's
your
it.
head.
They
So
just like sprinkled our heads when we got baptized. So I don't think his head was fully immersed. I hope not. But he lived many, many years after that. So don't worry.
that is so funny. That's so funny. Well, anyway, it has been such a delight to sit here and talk to you about your sweet little sweeties who I got a chance to meet back, when I was in New York. I got a chance to meet them um, and just sharing your stories, all these lovely stories about the cat familiars in your life. It's been such a pleasure hearing these new things that I didn't know because I thought I knew most of them.
This
Um,
was only half of it. I could, like you said, I could write a whole book just on the cats too. So.
so if people want to find you, of course they can find you at Parlor of Wonders in the readings and the spell work offerings, but you also have your own site, which is thelovewitchnyc.com.
Hmm.
And either one will get you and they can get a hold of you and
Yeah, and you know what? Also relevant to this conversation, I have a website, animalaltar.com.
oh
And if you have a sick or missing pet, I will light a free candle on that altar for you gladly. So it's a great honor to do that work, and I'm very happy to not have requests on it because that means people's pets are doing good. But if you ever need me,
yeah,
happy to light a little candle for your pets. And I use short candles that burn down in just a few hours because we want
yeah,
healing to
you
come.
want,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely. It's such a beautiful thing. I had forgotten about that.
I
Yeah, I
had
could have put that. I could
to
have
because
mentioned
no
that.
one has hit me up for it in a while, and then someone was mentioning it to me, and I was like, "That's right, I do that." And
Yeah.
when they reminded me, I texted a couple of people who had needed help to check on in on their animals, and they were all doing good. So it made me really, really happy.
Oh, that is so lovely. That is so lovely. Yeah, you got to promote that more because that's such a great service, and it's also yet another way that you can be honoring the magical animals
Exactly.
out there. This is such a wonderful, being of service to these gorgeous animals. So. Anyway, thank you so much for joining
Thank you
me.
so much.
Don't forget,
Mhm.
yes, and don't forget, you guys, that if you want to get and all those bonuses that go along with the Witch's Guide to Animal Familiars, go to animalfamiliars.com and sign up, and you can order the book, and then you can let us know that you ordered the book, and then you'll get that free workshop and all the other bonuses to come. So yeah.
Oh, and if
Oh,
you
and then
want to
also
get
too.
the Oracle deck that we designed, there's
Yes, I
only two
forgot
copies. Is that what you were
about
going
that.
to
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
say?
If there's a collaboration, of course we collaborate on so much. I mean, you are like behind the scenes, so much a part of the Parlor of Wonders. But the Love Witch and I created a deck called the Naughty or Nice Oracle deck, and it is all vintage postcards, Victorian vintage holiday postcards that we have turned into an Oracle deck with sweet and a little spicy and a little naughty. Not it's G-rated. There's
Yeah.
nothing,
Here's
obviously
a kind of naughty one,
gossip.
gossip, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this
Don't
is
be gossiping.
a great Oracle deck, and we have made it only a limited edition of 70 copies. I think we only have 20 something, 20 less than 20 left. So if you want to get one, it's their limited edition. They will not be made again. We have already our ideas for another deck for next year. We're thinking about doing something else, but yeah, if you want to get this, then you have yeah, you got to get on it now because once they're gone, they're gone. We're going to sell them up until probably the end of the year, and then or when they're done, we'll sell them, and then we'll do that. So yeah,
And you can
someone
find
said
them
your
on the
red
Parlor
nails are
Wonders.
beautiful.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you. Yeah,
yeah.
I got them to match the carpet at the opera when I was going the other
I
night.
love that. I love that. Yes, that's another thing about the Love Witch. That little bonus trivia is that the Love Witch is an opera
Fanatic
fan. Loves going to the
now.
yeah, yeah.
Recent
Yeah,
obsession.
I love that. All right, you guys, thanks for joining us, everybody. Thank you, Love Witch, for joining me.
Thank
It's so
you.
wonderful to have you here, and always I get to talk to you. Oh, and I want to let you know that on Monday we have to move our appointment because I have to go get beeswax. So we're going to move our
Okay,
appointment,
cool. Sounds good.
regular get together. So I just don't want to forget that. All right, everybody, have a great day, everyone. Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye.